Wow. You know, you gotta need a morning jolt of Java. You know, if you're just trying to make it through the hump part of the day, you're probably wondering if you had enough caffeine this morning. You know, daylight savings time globally is just a pain in the ass. You know, half the population wants a longer afternoon and others want a longer morning. You know, can't even come up to a decision on that. Anyways, guys, my name's Stuart Brisgell. That is one of my best friends, David Solomon, hailing from the good old Montreal, Quebec. Welcome to the Rant Network. It's a go-to podcast, unfiltered, unapologetic conversation and discussion. It's a diverse range of topics, candid conversation, bold opinions. Whether we're breaking down the latest headlines, exploring pop culture, debating politics, or delving into the complexities of modern life. So grab a seat, settle in, and join us on this thought-provoking journey. Welcome to the Rant Network. All right, David, you know, I don't know about you. I'm going to ask you some questions, David. Just say yes or no. I know it's hard. It's difficult this morning. Is $1 million a lot of money?
To probably 99%, yep.
Is 100 million a lot of money?
To even more people, yep.
Okay, is 200 million?
I think we know where the answer is.
How about is $400 million a lot to not only you, but any organization operating a business today?
Theoretically, sure. Unless you're Columbia University, right?
Wow, you just stole my thunder and slipped it in there. You know, for Columbia, a company, right? It's a business. Columbia is a business. It's a school. It makes money, pays people, and tries to build bigger endowments that I don't know what the hell it uses it for, but clearly not for the greater good of its students and academia. But $400 million was sliced out of their budget because, let's be honest, it's a racist school, racist ideology. The faculty and staff, I mean, the board of governors, I mean, I don't think, in the last year and a half, there are a bunch of schools that are complicit in this that's reminiscent of the 1933s. But let me tell you something. Neo-Nazism, which is the birth and actually the foundation of this movement, is running rampant on Columbia's campus, and the best that they can say is, Daddy, we can do better. I don't know, David. Can they do better? Are they no longer salvageable? Should we just put Columbia into the record books as one that went under and shouldn't come back? What do you have to say?
Look, to me, it's sick. By the way, just so we're clear, folks, do you know how much money it costs to run Columbia University? $6.6 billion, of which a quarter of that money, about 1.2 billion or 1.3 billion, comes from the federal government. So the rest of the money comes from student tuition, which is not going to give you the rest. It's going to come from outside money, alumni money, donations. And Columbia, like so many other institutions, have been powered up by your best friend, Qatar. Okay, let's get real. Qatar's been giving Ivy League schools hundreds of millions and billions of dollars for years. So here comes the federal government and saying, you know what? We're done with your stupidity. We're done with your status, the way you treat, anti-Semitism, the way you've dealt with this on campus. We're going to hit you where it hurts most because you simply have, Biden, by the way, Stuart, said, oh, this needs to stop. It didn't work. Another one of his imaginary red lines. And then Trump comes in and says, if you don't change and you don't stop, I'm going to hurt you. And you would think that when you hear Trump threaten, he goes through with his threats. Well, last week when he announced $400 million in steps, Columbia said, yeah, we'll investigate. The amount of lies and crap that comes out of this school, the offensive way it deals with things, it did nothing. It was a cesspool. And, Stuart, some would call it a neo-Nazi movement. Some would call it an extreme Marxist movement. Call it whatever it is. It's extremism at its best. As soon as those cuts were called, as soon as that happened, guess what happened? As expected on Columbia and Bernard College, students occupied the campuses. Yes, there were 9 arrests, 4 in Columbia. one from Barnard, one Union Theological Seminar student, three others who were unaffiliated with the school. This organized movement is a absolute shit show. And for Columbia arresting 9 students, now where it had to take the federal government to evict a guy with ICE who what he was doing on campus. Columbia has done nothing to protect its Jewish students or any other students. And to that matter, Stuart, think about it. They were paraded in front of Congress. It did nothing. The threat of $400 million cut has done really nothing. You got to ask yourself, what will make a difference? Because Columbia University is not the only one. Because you would think if Columbia is being, and by the way, it's not $400 million in cash, people. Let me tell you what it is. It's not only money, but it's government contracts. And it's that which leads to other opportunities for Columbia University. And that didn't make a dent, not just at Columbia, but no other Ivy League school said, oh boy, well, let's look inside and let's see how we fix this problem. The point I'm trying to get at, Stuart, is that the universities have simply given themselves to the terrorist countries, to rogue or countries like Russia and China, and it's Donald Trump that is the puppet of Putin and of North Korea and of China. It's Trump that is being accused of being this, and not these universities. The heads of these universities, each one should resign along with its board today, because what they have done on their campuses is beyond reproach. And it takes a Leo Terrell, who's heading the Department of Justice Anti-Semitism. Guys, he's an African-American former police cop who's going school to school, getting rid of this anti-Semitism. You've got
a lawyer. He's a lawyer too. He was a lawyer too.
You have Linda McMahon, who is, now running the Department of Education. Okay. We're not talking about Jews here who are doing this. These are people. These are the humans who said that they were going to protect their people. And they're doing their jobs, which the previous administration didn't do. So to me, Stuart, these universities, the poison ivies, the sub-ivies, all these other schools that have decided that they don't need to protect Jewish students. And by the way, Stuart, day in and day out, I get dozens of alerts on university campuses of the various programs, professor statements, other things that are done. It seems like it doesn't, could you imagine $400 million cut and no one flinches?
David, when 2% of the population, or just under it, captures 60% of all active religious, persecution, that's up 20% from last year, and university schools are still trying to say this is just a bunch of freedom, peace, 1960s rallies. Are very mistaken. I think the ideological difference is this is a very well coordinated attack on university campuses. We were talking at dinner last night, and I think you couldn't have said it more appropriately. On October 8th, even before there was a reaction of the world, there really was something that is unheard of. Coordination at a level never seen in history.
And while he's going to check for his food, it goes beyond that, Stuart. It's actually quite crazy, because what we're talking about is a coordination on campuses we've never seen. Look, we talked about the campus sit-ins, same tents. They had food, they had drink, they had all these things. You got to ask yourself at this point, Stuart, when you're talking about coordination, the crazy thing is that these universities are sitting there. They're complicit and they're part of the coordination, because look what happened. Qatar bought seats. They bought those so-called chairs of departments. They're professors in the university. They're sitting on their board of directors. There's a serious coordination going on here.
David, you know what it smells like? A Marxist by the name of George Soros.
Oh yeah, well, we know about him.
The Soros Foundation, who took federal taxpayer money and disseminated it for Marxist type acts under the Obama administration, actually. And what I find even more troubling about October the 8th, we haven't had an investigation into this yet. This cancer that runs deep in the education system, which, by the way, some of these schools are, you know, they used to be a merit. I can't even say the word meritocracy type
Meritocracy, yes.
environments.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
are no longer, and Harvard was taken out first by an Asian lawsuit that sort of beat him under the rug. But what I don't understand is, where are these people now? Where is the ACLU?
Oh,
Where
no,
where
no,
are
no,
these
no,
organizations
no.
that claim to
God.
be,
No,
but that are not?
God.
I just don't get it, David.
Well, Stuart, let me give you some ideas about what is going on university campuses, ladies and gentlemen, because you may not know this, okay? Stanford University has postponed a lecture called Countering Reproductive Genocide in Gaza, Palestinian Women's Testimonies. Like, there's, again, a whole new kind of crap, okay? There is a violation at Stony Brook University promoting dangerous anti Semitic rhetoric, which is the violation of Title VI of New York State laws, hosting events that falsely accuse Israel of a genocide and colonialism. Just doesn't stop right there. Shall I continue? University of Buffalo, same thing. They're calling for a speaker. There's a speaker on human rights violations by Israel in Palestine. Okay, there's more. Pratt Institute has been complicit as they have promoted all kinds of different type of programs glorifying terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're sending your children to universities in the United States, look at the programs. The Students for Justice for Palestine, this so-called, the peace-loving group, which has had ties to George Soros, to Stuart's point. I mean, they're being cut out. They're being cut off campuses for what they've been doing in only a handful of schools, but they are rampant in universities across U.S. and Canada. Silence, and it marvels me to see that these deans, these heads of schools, these presidents of schools, follow the money trail, people. How much of that money from terrorist countries and groups are going into their pockets?
Qatar trying to play deal maker, peacemaker, who are really upstanding the Saudis and the Kuwaitis in the world, but Qatar isn't a friendly nation. And it has not in history been a friendly nation. Why all of a sudden are they the peacemakers and the below the radar money? Like, is it time maybe to investigate all money coming from the Middle East into these colleges, on where the money's going, what departments? Because clearly they are funding billions of dollars into the school system that cause. I mean, listen, it doesn't take rocket science to connect dots. Obviously, we don't have the research, but David, you and I have come up with these answers before most media posts. But is there not a correlation between funds from the Middle East to college campuses and the coordinated efforts on October the 8th?
Oh, listen, sir, there's no doubt that this has been like that. And they've been telling people to follow the money, of which the Trump administration is now investigating, because the Biden administration did not want to do it. And we're going to see this as these schools are being investigated and have to be, they'll be, the Leo Terrells, the Pam Bondis, the Linda McMahons. They're going to go through these people with fine tooth combs, and they're going to discover what is the rot that has been there. And by the way, Stuart, there's not much investigating. It's decades. We know that this money's been coming in. It's public information to see that Qatar and all these other schools, like I said, China and Russia are giving money. There suddenly all these new Middle East programs in these universities. Where do they come from? All these professors. I mean, Stuart, in Canada, there was a guy who was made a university professor who was a known convicted terrorist. It didn't matter. This is what has happened. The schools have been invaded. Your students, your sons and daughters are going to schools filled with hate. And if you think it's just anti-Semitism and it's just, all that kind of rhetoric, ask them what they're hearing about capitalism, anti-Americanism. What are their value system? I mean, here we are. We're going to protect transgender, but we are going to let Jews die. Like, I want it understood. We'll protect transgender, but Jews die. Jews die. Those are the words they're using. Your children are spewing that on campuses. Where's that coming from? Because if you're not the one saying it, and their elementary and high schools didn't do it, guess where it's coming from?
You know, David, and that's a wrap. Brings this episode to a close because there is no reprieve from this. Anyways, guys, we truly appreciate you tuning in and joining us. Your support and engagement means everything as we continue to foster an honest and thought-provoking conversation. Don't forget, we're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. Stay connected through all the social media posts, podcasts, or where you get your popular discussion channels. Remember, your feedback shapes our community, keeps the conversation alive. Thank you once again and joining us. Until next time. Keep the rants passionate, the discussion vibrant, and the ideas flowing. Take care, and we'll see you real soon.